Welcome to How to Find More Direct Clients Than You Can Poke a Stick At podcast, a mix of both solo episodes and expert interviews. Our ideal listener is an early career, ambitious, and passionate online language services provider. She is committed to professional growth and achieving success in the fiercely competitive translation and interpreting industry. She balances multiple responsibilities with resourcefulness, values mentorship, is open to learning, and investing in her professional development journey. She embraces technology and seeks to optimize workflow, eager to connect with like-minded peers and build out her professional network. She is determined to overcome challenges and become a sought-after freelance translator. And here's your host, medical translator and translator business mentor, Jason Willis-Lee.
Sarena Diamond is the CEO and founder of Diamond Solutions Group, where she helps leaders spark innovation, clarity, and high performance in their teams. With over 30 years' experience in strategic business transformation, technology innovation, and process excellence, Sarena specializes in guiding organizations through change, whether it's adopting agile ways of working, leveraging new technologies, boosting employee engagement, or navigating DE&I and regulatory initiatives. And welcome to How to Find More Direct Clients, Freelancer Training on How to Find More Direct Clients, a podcast hosted by myself, Jason Willis-Lee. This is the show that makes digital marketing easier and more fun using just the right combo and the right dose of business strategy and tech. I'm your host, Jason Willis-Lee, digital marketing specialist, and today I'm very thrilled to welcome my special guest. Her name is Sarena Diamond. Sarena brings a very unique perspective to our discussion. Sarena, welcome to the show. How are you doing this afternoon, or this morning for you, I think it is?
Wonderful, Jason. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for accepting the invite. So just as an icebreaker for the audience, could you just tell us a little about your personal and business journey? I know you worked in corporate, and now you are doing something else. What is your unique vision for your industry moving forwards?
So as you said, I spent more than 30 years in corporate, starting with Accenture, ending with IBM, all those kinds of names and pedigree, really always focusing on business transformation. And 3.5 years ago, I went out on my own, started focusing exclusively on helping organizational change happen more effectively by really helping leaders to understand better ways of embracing change and inspiring, change throughout their organizations. And it's been a fabulous, fabulous ride.
Incredible. So let's talk about speaking clients' languages. How I serve a community of online language service providers. So these people are translators, we are interpreters, we are copywriters. How do we position our services more as business solutions and away from the service? So how do we get people to see our services as the solution? I guess they need to work out what the problem is. They need to be problem aware to be solution aware. Is it all about the value? How do we communicate our value to our clients?
One of the things that I say to leaders, and I would say to anyone trying to position services in any industry anymore, is what is the problem that you're solving, right? And it's not translating. Translation services is really about storytelling. It's about inspiring change. It's about building belief in the work that you're doing. And there's so much that goes into creating that change story, the way to communicate that. I have a whole talk that I do on communication is leadership and leadership is communication. And I will debunk any myth where some leader says to me that they can just hire a communication specialist and they will ghostwrite everything. It's the way to do that and be authentic in the leadership perspective is really focusing on what is the story that you're trying to tell, whether that be translation of the story, but more so about the value and the outcomes that you're trying to inspire to have happen as a result.
Yeah, that's so profound. So what is the keynote? What is the central message of that keynote? Because that sounds very interesting.
Well, the central concept really is that as a leader, or as anyone trying to affect change, they have to be able to create a path for those that are hearing the message to come with along the change journey, whatever that change is. So for online translation or services where the value may or may not be quite so clear when especially if it's become commoditized with AI and the capability, it becomes that challenge of what is it that I'm uniquely doing? And I say, when I first started thinking about us talking together, I thought, what an amazing and still crisis panic stricken time to be in this industry. And yet the opportunity is so big, just like with leaders trying to affect change, to be able to say to people, you can get anybody to translate. Years ago, you used to be able to get Google to translate. You don't need that, but the nuances, the authenticity, the value of the human experience on top of or augmenting what is truly artificial intelligence is the real value here. And so positioning services in any way, shape, or form that are more than just I threw it into Chat GPT and here's what the result was. Anybody can do that, but the nuances that allow to evoke emotion, that to allow people to interact, to be able to create a value story. Here's why you want to have more than just an AI story, because you're going to reach into a path, a change journey or a path that someone is trying to go on. And that's the aspect for all of us in services. Frankly, what I do by itself could probably, if not by now, by the time this podcast gets released, I'm sure AI will have figured it out. But it's more than just what you can write down or what can come out in a text, LMM. It is truly about that human aspect of it and the insights that come from knowing and anticipating the value.
From your work, Sarena, with business leaders and organizational change, could you give us some tactics for getting in the right rooms, some strategies to build trust and generate leads? Because I talk a lot about lead generation. I always say everything comes downstream of lead generation. You need leads to educate the leads, to get meetings with the leads, and then, unless you do leads education meetings, you're unlikely to get any sales. So could you give us a few tactics such as, I suppose, networking and using magnets to attract direct clients towards us that would
Or
help a service provider audience up their game a little bit?
100%. And all of us that are in a service-based business, I am too, right? We're all in a service-based business. We're not selling a product, we're selling ourselves. And the most important thing there, if you can cut through all of the noise and all the icky sales stuff, it is about having true and authentic relationships.
Sure.
And one of the things that I've learned really intentionally over the last year or so has been very focused on how do I leverage the relationships that I have. So networking is important. And if you're an introvert, networking is that thing that makes you feel a little sick to your stomach, right? The possibility of needing to do that. But there's so many ways to be able to create authentic opportunities to network and build those relationships. I tell people all the time, I don't care how you feel about it, LinkedIn has 1.5 billion people on the platform. You can say whatever you want, but even if 10% of those people are active, that's 1.5 million people. You don't need to work for all of them. You just need to be able to interact. And if you go about and approach LinkedIn, the ultimate place to do connecting with business, the thing I love about LinkedIn so much is that people are generally supportive. It's generally a respectful, you get your one or two trolls and like it with everything, but it's not a place to air grievances. It's a place to do business.
Yeah.
So when people are looking to create those intentional relationships, I also tell people all the time, go follow and interact with the people that buy your stuff. Don't go after them. Don't direct mail them. Don't connection requests to sell your services. Go build a relationship. Know what they're talking about. Know what their challenges are, so that when you have an interaction, you are the name that they remember. Now, it helps to have a unique name. I will say, I am the only, if you spell it right, I am the only Sarena Diamond in 1.5 billion people on LinkedIn. If you spell it right, the way my mom intended, right? But So I have the benefit of if I comment on someone's post or like their stuff, people are going to go, oh, that was a unique name I haven't seen before. But building out your presence and making intentional interactions, building relationships with people who have the opportunity to make decisions about buying services is an important thing. It's also a service that you're doing, right? You're providing people with an easy way to get to a problem solution that they may not have known before. And sometimes people don't recognize that that's how you can get true value in a language translation service, right? That they don't know how to do that. If they're, especially if they're in a big corporation, they may have only ever done it by sending it out somewhere, right? Sending out our script and our press releases and what have you. So I tell people all the time, don't make it hard for yourself. Network in the places where people are doing business. That for me, that for probably most of your audience is also LinkedIn. And then the other thing that I tell people all the time is find someone who's gone before you and learn. Do not make this your own personal journey so that you can bushwhack your way through it hard. Find somebody that is 6 months, a year, a few years ahead of you and learn from them. Ask them. It is amazingly insightful to have someone come out, reach out to me and say, I'm just starting my journey. Can you tell me how, what lessons have you learned? Most people I found are they're so honored to have that request and to be genuine in helping and sharing with each other. I'm sure that there's a person or two, maybe you name them, but I have yet to find someone who's really truly a jerk about it, or they just say they don't have time. I have met those. I've met a few people that said, sorry, don't have time. Okay. They weren't going to be helpful anyway. Right? So
Sarena, let's talk about the agency direct client dichotomy because that's very present in my industry in language service. It's a shift from being passive to proactive, I suppose. But how could you explain to us why relying solely on agencies keeps you a little bit more invisible than if you go after the direct clients, perhaps on LinkedIn, as you were just explaining? What is the difference in mindset that we need as service providers between servicing agencies and attracting direct clients and getting over the middle person?
I love that you asked that question because for me, the parallel is using talent sourcers, people that will go find big clients. And I've gotten Fortune 100 client engagements direct through there. To your point, I stay nameless or relatively nameless, right, to that individual. And I honor the commitment that I make when I work with the equivalent of an agency, and that I won't work direct for that client again because that's not the relationship. But it's important, and I also tell anybody that's in the solopreneur business, it's important to adopt what I call the power of and. It is a very multiplier and kind of mentality. Yes, continue to nurture the relationships with agencies because they're the ones that are going to come through in a pinch, or they're the ones that are going to get perhaps bigger engagements, bigger opportunities. And also nurture your relationships yourself. Build your own name, build your own personal brand, build the thing that when sometimes agency clients are deciding between you and someone else that the agency has, and they go looking at your LinkedIn, they'll see that you are a thought leader. They'll see that you are sharing content on LinkedIn that is relevant to them. They'll see that you interact with people perhaps in their business or in a competitor's business, that you are engaging in and fully committed to the service that you provide. I do believe it's an and mentality. And I just tell people if you're struggling with it, pick an hour a day or 2 hours a day and divvy it up. Half your day is focused on landing agency work, and half your day is focused on landing your own work, building those communications.
How important is niching down, Sarena? So niche industries like law, like medicine, like SaaS, maybe software as a service. How important is niching down and going deeper rather than wider?
I have a contrary opinion about that for my own service because and very much like yours, I say to people, I am not industry agnostic because that's a terribly overused term. I actually magnify the learnings that I get from one industry and bring it to another. And now I know there's lots of people that will say, what is that thing, niches for riches or something about, you
The
have to
riches are
niche
in the
down.
niches. Yeah,
Riches
yeah,
are in the niches.
yeah.
I will say this, and I have a very good friend that I've met through networking that talks about being clear. Business clarity, super important. And I think that's why niches became the thing that everybody did. Because if I can hone in on what I'm saying, I won't deviate too much. So when you can be crystal clear about the value that your service provides in a story type way that could apply to multiple industries. Now, there's certainly things in the healthcare spaces where I learned a word because I was working in healthcare. Like I had never heard the term acuity as part of a change function, but they were talking about patient acuity, and I had to look that one up. And I thought, oh, I wouldn't have learned that had I not worked in healthcare.
Right.
There will always be unique words that are specific to an industry. Now, I will say that, and then I say on the flip side, if you find an industry that you like working in, nurture the relationships that you have with those clients and those industries. Because if you gravitate towards healthcare, for example, those people hang together. So then you would want to promote those relationships. But when you are in something that is people centric, you can be, quote, industry agnostic, or exploding the value, being able to port the industry learnings in one to another. So I'm not a value I'm not one that pitches the value of the niching down often, because I think that pigeonholes you, and I'm a big believer in and. So find what works in one and bring to another, as long as that's something that brings you joy and results.
Serena, let's talk about change management because my industry is going through massive change. Obviously, AI, a lot of people have left the industry and are running scared of AI. They haven't learned how to incorporate it into their businesses. What exactly is organizational change management, and how does this compare to standard project management, which we've all heard of project management? What is organizational change management?
It is actually what people would think if you broke down the words. It is the people side of managing change. It is the human aspect of building belief in the changes that need to happen, helping people to be aware, bought in, creating that buy-in up front. Then it is about enabling the behaviors that allow people to know what they're trying to accomplish, feeling the support of their leaders, that they believe in them, in their ability to enable the new behaviors and adopt new ways of working. And then it is all about sustaining the change long term, culturally and mindset wise. How does the company become a continuously improving organization? Now, so many people struggle with change management, and I often get asked, well, could you help me manage this project? And I can certainly do that. It's sort of, if you've been a parent of teenagers, it's sort of like babysitting little kids, right? Way easier because you've done that before.
Yes.
Project management is much more around the ticking off the boxes. I do say to people lots of times, there is an aspect of project management that goes with organizational change management, but there's an aspect of project management that goes with running a household. So I think that it gets bastardized a lot. People get really confused. Organizational change management is the goal of creating buy-in, inspiring people to come with you on a journey, and it is truly about building a culture of change that allows companies and leaders and teams to develop that change resilience, that muscle that allows people to roll with everything that's coming. Because let's be clear, everything is moving at a pace that is so much more. I used to say early in my technology career, oh, the rate and pace of change is constant and coming. And I didn't even know how much that wave, that frequency was going to increase, right? But as I say often, by the time we get off this podcast, there will be a new AI chatbot that's going to solve something else that we haven't even thought of. Maybe something we're talking about on this podcast. I don't know. But I do know that the ability to go with it, to roll with each of those changes, the resilience that is needed by teams, by leaders, and really by companies as a whole. It's cultural, and it needs to be embedded into the DNA of the companies. And lots of companies, every company that I've worked with is so far behind in creating that DNA, the ability to truly embrace a change mentality. It's not for everyone, but everyone can learn it. And I do truly believe I've seen some of the most steadfast leaders. They're like, nope, they'll do it because I said so. I've seen their eyes open when they see people change in front of them. I've seen them go, oh, all right, well, maybe it does work. All right, maybe this will work. And I've had one leader say to me, can I ever just tell people what to do? I said, you can tell your dog what to do. But any human beings that you talk to, they need to be treated like they're coming with you on this change. Now, and they
Correct.
have a choice because people have free choice. They can choose not to participate.
So, Serena, what is the most common mistake you see solopreneurs like me make when implementing change management processes? So, solopreneurs, self-employed people, maybe with a team, a VA, maybe one other person. What is the most common mistake you see people make?
I was guilty of it. Even being a change expert, I was guilty of it myself. We believe we have to do everything ourselves,
Mm,
right? If I couldn't possibly rely on somebody who's also a busy solopreneur. When we open up the aperture, so I'll give you an example. I was preparing for a workshop and I am never, ever, ever late, but I'm often just in time
okay.
because I've got so many things on my plate, right? I always get things done at the deadline.
Right.
And I was really feeling uncomfortable at this workshop. It was the first time, it was really important. And I was talking to a couple of colleagues. We have an accountability hour, all solopreneurs. We get together once a week just to co-work because co-working really helps. So I was talking a little bit about really needing to buckle down. This workshop was in a month, and what was I going to be talking about? And they volunteered to come together on a Saturday morning and do a dry run for me. These are people that were very busy building their own businesses. They had
Yeah.
no reason to have to do that. Were they kind? Absolutely. But what they gave me in that one was a sooner deadline, which helped me to get further along.
Yes.
They gave me insight because one of the things that solopreneurs tend to do is we stay in our own echo chamber. So we tend to not think about it from another lens. And two of the three people that joined weren't even in the industry. So they have no frame of reference of what I was talking about, which was incredibly valuable to be able to do a dry run of a workshop and recognize how many terms I was using that wouldn't resonate with half of the audience. But more importantly, what that taught me was how hard it was for me to ask. And yet, it was an absolutely critical, pivotal moment for me because we spent that Saturday morning an hour. It changed how I looked at my solopreneur journey because immediately I knew that what I needed to do rather than do it all myself, that so many solopreneurs think we have to do it all ourselves, is it said to me, what am I really good at? And where can I lean on, rely on, help other people personally? And where can I get help from them as well? It changed everything. I've had two other people help me with things. I'm looking for people to help with things. I will make the same offer to your listeners. If someone is struggling with an idea they're struggling to get some clarity on, and it's not in my Squarespace, really hook up with me on LinkedIn. I will 100% give 30 minutes to anybody who wants a brain partner, a thought partner, somebody to bounce things off of. That's where the magic in solopreneur world is. Find other people to help that are truly helpful. Look, what was it Mr. Rogers said? Look for the helpers. Look for those people, and there's so many of us out here. I really truly believe people that have ventured into solopreneurship are genuinely helpful. I've yet to meet probably a handful of not so helpful, but they're busy. Okay, fine. But those people that are willing to help, oh my gosh, they change everything.
Absolutely, yeah, and thank you so much for that very altruistic offer. That's incredible. So, Serena, final question on this thread on your niche. We're 5 years post-pandemic. Uh, Obviously, in 2020, everyone went online. It was either 100% remote or hybrid. It gradually became more hybrid as we got the coronavirus under control. What are the trends you're seeing now in organizational change management in companies and leadership teams and all of these things that you consult with or for? What are you seeing now, 5 years after the pandemic? Has it gone back to what it was pre-2020, or is it in a sort of hiatus? What's the situation now, 5 years after that?
I've had a couple of clients ask me to talk through their return to office policies that, wouldn't have existed had we not had the pandemic.
Right.
Um, I've had a couple of people ask me to work with them specifically on the culture of their organization. There's so much really good work and good leadership, I think, that people have come in the last 5 years to say we need as leaders to provide a level of a different kind of culture in our business. We need to provide an environment where people feel engaged. And so I'm seeing a lot more engagement in that space and those kinds of conversations where leaders are looking to say, I want an organization that is engaged in the challenges, that is part of this, that is looking to collaborate on solving the new problems that are coming at us on an ongoing basis. Now, maybe that's just a small sample of people that look for organizational change expertise, but those that are doing it, and they're big. I mean, they're Fortune. Actually, one of my clients is Fortune 10. So they're not small companies that are committing to helping. The other thing I'm seeing a lot of is leaders, senior leaders, are recognizing that they don't either have the time or the expertise to grow the leadership skills of the people within their organization. So
Mm.
lots of people get promoted because they were really good at their job, and they don't necessarily, they need to augment the leadership capabilities and the management. How do you manage tasks and lead people? So I'm seeing a big increase in developing upcoming leaders. And I love that because what that says is that one, the leaders recognize that maybe they didn't have the best learning experience. On the job training doesn't work for everyone. And they didn't always have the best role models in that. And they want to do better by their people than they perhaps could feel that they could do themselves. Now, some people will say it's just because they're too busy. I don't necessarily believe that. I really think that they value that. Frankly, they're paying for it, right? They're investing in their people. The other thing that that tells me is that they are committed to continuously growing the people themselves, growing their leadership style, and growing how they serve clients. Because one of my clients is very specifically focused on growing the leadership skills that help influence how they show up in front of their clients. And that's critically important. So I love this concept that says we need to be reinvesting in our people's skills and capabilities so that we can continue to grow as an organization.
Sarena, a couple of quick fire questions now. Just give me the
Yes.
first word that kind of pops into your head. What is one change management tip that you abide by daily? So a tip you give to your clients that you apply to your own organization, your own office, your own company.
Ask why.
Ask why.
Ask
Ask why
why.
Simon, that's Simon Sinek, the
Well, it is
Austrian.
it is it is Simon Sinek. It's very funny. I'm a little older than Simon, and I think we've come to the same kinds of. I have found him. I'm a big fan, obviously. But ask the why. Find out why, and do you know the why? Is always the question. Why are you doing this? What's behind it?
I love his framework and I use him as an example in my presentations and my pitches as well. Also a fan. Using just one word, Serena, how would you describe leadership? What's the one word that comes into your that's sort of resonating when I say leadership?
Communication.
Mm, sure. What's the best business advice you've possibly given a client or you've received yourself from a mentor or maybe from a client as well?
Find your people. Find your
Okay.
people.
Okay. And what's the best investment you ever made? Either in yourself, and it doesn't have to be a monetary investment, maybe in yourself, in your work, in your company. What's the best investment you made?
Best investment ever was my LLC. Was going out on my own.
Okay.
Had I never had I yeah, but
So
the two
leaving
hundred and ten
corporate.
dollars leaving corporate and going out on my own. I say my LLC with those three letters saved me.
Okay. And what book are you reading at the moment, or possibly what was the last book that you completed?
Actually, I had a whole series of the fixable Anne Morris and Francis Fry books. So I've been Move Fast and Break Things or Fix Things. I have them both here. Move Fast and Fix Things and Unleashed.
Unleashed, I
Both
think
are
I've, yeah.
Unleashed.
Okay, we'll make sure to get links to both those books. Sarena, coming to the close now, what is the key takeaway from this conversation you would like our audience to take away? Just the central message, the notable nugget to take away.
I think that positioning services that are value oriented, the solution that you're trying to drive, getting out of the niche of translation, but into this concept of this change that you're creating, the story that you're telling, the value that you're providing will make all the difference.
Sarena, where can my listeners connect with you? What's the best platform? Is it LinkedIn? Do you have a website? Where's the best place to find you?
I have a website and I have email, but the best way is LinkedIn because if you spell it the way my mom intended, Sarena, Sarena Diamond, I'm the only one on LinkedIn. So love that. It's the easiest way and I'm on it every day.
All right, you heard it here. Get it right, the spelling, Sarena, Sarena Diamond, and Sarena will connect with you there. All right, let's wrap it up for today's episode of Freelancer Training on how to find more direct clients. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions on the ever-evolving landscape of language and digital marketing. Until then, do what I always say, stay on your game and future-proof your career in the AI era. Many thanks to my special guest today, Sarena Diamond. See you next episode.
Here's a fun fact about Jason. Jason was born in Aberdeen, Scotland in the UK. Thanks for tuning in to the How to Find More Direct Clients Than You Can Poke a Stick At podcast. We'll be back soon. In the meantime, why not head over to www.entrepreneurialtranslator.com to access all our tools and resources to monetize and future-proof your freelance translation business. And don't forget to hit the plus button in Apple Podcasts or iTunes, or subscribe in Spotify to be notified when new episodes drop. For regular tips and insights, business strategy, or marketing techniques straight to your inbox, please sign up at www.entrepreneurialtranslator.com.